Thank you, Melanie and Candace.
Okay, good afternoon. It's our council meeting of today, Tuesday, June the 14th, 2022. The time is approximately 1:30 in the afternoon. We apologize to those that may be watching this recorded version or a YouTube version of that. We had some technical difficulties with some computers and some updates and one thing after another. Just lets you know that Zoom isn't really all that much fun or what it's cracked up to be. So at this time then, we have a full complement. Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to say that Deputy Mayor Burt sends her regrets. She may be joining the meeting after a bit if she's able to. So at this time, our thoughts are with Deputy Mayor Burt. So I'll call the meeting to order at this time, and I'll read the land acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge that the township of Asphodel-Norwood is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory and in the traditional territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which include Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Scugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Islands First Nations. We respectively acknowledge that the Williams Treaties First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. So at this time, I'll ask council for a moment of silent reflection so that we may reflect upon our duties of today as councillors. Thank you. I'll ask if there's any declaration of pecuniary interest to say so now or at time of subject. Seeing no hands, thank you. Now I'm looking for an approval of the agenda, but it will be an amended agenda today to add a C8 to our consent for action. And that will move the C3 into the C8, so it'll be one subject only, talking about township signs, basically. I need an approval of the agenda then, please, as amended. Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Approval of the minutes and the council meeting minutes of May 24th, 2022, and the public meeting minutes of May 24th, 2022. And the recommendation is that the minutes of these meetings be adopted as presented. Motion by Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor War. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes at this time? All right, seeing no hands. So then we have the consent agenda. So it's correspondence for information. We have C1, C2, C4, C5, and C6. And then the minutes of the Special Projects Committee for March 14th and the Special Projects Committee meeting minutes of April the 11th. 2022, and that these be approved as circulated, please. Motioned by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no hands, all in favor? That's carried. Thank you. There's no delegations and presentations at this time. So now we're on to staff and committee reports. So R1 is Peter Deshane, who is our Manager of Public Works and Environmental Services. And this is regarding our 2022 Capital Sidewalk Program tender results. Peter, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, I will start off by saying on June the 6th, 2022 at 12 noon, we received our tenders for our 2022 sidewalk program. We only received one tender. And we tendered for sidewalk on Elm Street on the east side from Highway 7 to Queen Street, and on County Road 45 from Baker Street to the existing sidewalk in front of Mapleview. And on Highway 7, there's a short section next to Maybe's Auto Care Garage. Drain Brothers was our only bid. The bid came in at $142,679 plus HST. And the tender included a completion date of September 2nd, 2022. Our 2022 capital works budget included $123,000 for our 2022 capital sidewalk program. The bid was above that, and the increases are, we saw increases in items such as asphalt, concrete, topsoil and sod, and various things like that. It seems like all materials are on the rise in 2022. So our recommendation is to remove the 114 meters of proposed sidewalk on County Road 45 from our 2022 capital program, and that will see a savings of approximately $43,000, and this will realign us within our capital budget. So our recommendation is to award Drain Brothers the 2022 capital sidewalk program in the amount of $99,679 approximately.
Okay, thank you, Peter. A little disappointing, of course, but that's the facts. Prices are going up. Fuel is exuberant right now. I can't imagine owning a diesel vehicle at this time. But okay, council, open for discussion at this time. Is there any discussion on this sidewalk tender? Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Peter, do you think that there will be any problems with readjusting it to the next budget? Like, with costs escalating, do you think that the project that we couldn't do between Mapleview and Baker Street will get done in the following year confidently?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, I mean, we'll put it in the budget for sure for 2023. I know that one's sort of been in the horizon for a little while now, so we'll make sure that we get it into the budget next year, and we won't remove it again.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Candace, our CAO clerk treasurer, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So just a follow up to that, what may happen, it will be included, but we do have this 5-year sidewalk plan. So what could happen is it could bump then another project out and make it then to the next year. So it'll be a sliding scale.
Yeah.
So yes, it will be included because it is the eldest identified project in the plan. So it automatically be done, but that may be an impact on another project that was slated previously for 2023. I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah.
Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, thank you. No matter how you look at it, something's always got to change or switch, and I guess that's why we call them living documents. So things have to move where we can afford to do it. So, any other questions, comments, concerns, council, on this? You've heard the recommendation. All in favor then, or motion by, I should say. Sorry, Councillor Ward, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any other discussion? All in favor then, please. And that's carried. Thank you, with the show of hands. Okay, Peter, R2 then, this is the results of the tender 2022-04 Ridge Street paving. Please, sir.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. So again, we let out a tender for the Ridge Street paving. Just a little bit of background. The water department pointed out that the water main needed to be replaced, or there was a need to replace the water main on Ridge Street from Pine Street to the west end. So we grouped together and we'll replace the asphalt and curbs at the same time, just have a whole new road there. And we'll do the water main replacement with our own resources. So we needed to tender at the paving and the curb. So that's what this is for. So on June the 6th at 12 noon, we received the tenders for the Ridge Street paving. We did only receive one tender. That came in at $87,486 plus HST. And the tender included a completion date of on or before July 27th, 2022. Our capital works budget included $75,000 for the paving and the curb on Ridge Street. And again, similar to our last to the sidewalk tender, we're seeing an increase in asphalt and concrete in 2022. So the additional $12,486 will be realized from the capital sidewalk program reduction. So our recommendation is to award the contract to Drain Brothers Excavating in the amount of $87,486.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Ward, please.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Just a comment. I just wanted to commend Peter and staff for being able to pivot and change things so that we can get these projects done. And this is just, you know, growing on the one that we had the report before, that this is why, you know, you look at the budget and you have to change things sometimes. So well done. Thank you. And I'll move that.
All right, thank you. So we have it moved. Is there a seconder on that? Councillor Archer. Okay, any other comments, concerns, questions? Councillor Walsh on the motion?
Yeah, just through you, Mayor. Peter, the completion date of July 27th, that obviously you're comfortable with that date, or you wouldn't have put that date in there. I just kind of want to make sure that that date seems comfortable for you, that you'll have the work done.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Yeah, that's our intention. You know, we're well underway on the tree cleanup, although there is still a lot of work to do, but we're gonna reallocate some resources here and make sure that we get that project done. And of course, that we get locates and everything in on time too. So so there's a few things that have to come together, but that is the plan, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Just a question from myself is that I take it all the residents up Ridge Street, they've all been informed, or they're going to be informed that the road's going to be interfered with, and
Thank you. Yes, there'd be a notice going out 2 to 3 weeks in advance of us starting the work. So we'll be getting that together shortly and getting that out to them.
like just another thought, Peter, on that. I'm sure staff's already talked about it, but just in case anyone's listening to this recording is, I know when a few streets have been done and they're narrow as what they are, and one thing after another that way, that they're recycling and one thing after another is somehow arranged to be moved or picked up somehow at the end of the street or something like that as it goes on, because it'll probably be a month or so that the street's going to be interfered with, I guess, right?
Yeah, thank you. So the way that the contract will be written, the contractor will be responsible for making sure that the recycling and garbage gets brought to a central location, collection location point that's agreed on by them and the contractor, the waste contractor.
Yeah, just like any other time. It's just more reiterating the fact so the public's aware of that. So thank you very much, staff, for good job. Well done. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Councillor War made the motion, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Any other discussion? All right, all in favor? And that's carried. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter.
You're welcome.
All right, R3 then would be Ed Whitmore, our Chief Building Official Planning Coordinator, and this report is regarding our official plan update. Ed, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, so we've been working on this official plan, the newest update, for probably not only months, but probably a year or two. And we've hashed out all the different areas, and all the townships came at this from their own perspective. And so we've been direct and online with what Asphodel-Norwood needs to move forward in a positive manner. And we brought a draft towards to our council here in February, and we went away with a resolution directing us to work out the last few bugs of the official plan that represents Asphodel-Norwood at best. And so I can come back and say that I'm probably one of the happiest guys on the planet right now, because we've achieved pretty much everything that we could ever hope for, and then some. And so the county staff, Brian, Ian, and Keziah, they worked with us 100% all the way along. And they've listened to us, and they've made some changes that best suit us. And they've done this with the other townships as well, but mainly for us, whatever we asked, they listened to, and they've been reasonable. And the items that we asked to tweak a little bit. They've managed to tweak them as best that they could for us. And I told Candace that I'm very confident that Asphodel-Norwood, once this is a new official plan is passed, that we're in a really good position moving forward for at least the next decade or more. So if there's any questions regarding the report, I'm happy to answer them, but the conclusion, if I drop down to that part in the report, that the draft OP, we're 100% happy, staff, myself is 100% happy with this new official plan. And there is some language in the agricultural section for consents for diversified farm parcel sizes, which are agricultural related, which includes like commercial and industrial farm related uses. And they have a definition for that. So it can only be large enough that is necessary for that use. Has to be farm related, of course. And that's all we want anyways, is we want to protect as much farmland as we can, but we also want the ability to have a severance where it makes sense. If somebody wanted to have a co-op or something like that, or some other use that makes sense to the farming community, especially to our ratepayers, then we want the ability to do that. That language is in there. And the only last item of that I need to mention is that we're working on the wording for event venues. And so it was very specific in the draft bylaw or the draft official plan bylaw that all event venues require zoning bylaw amendments and be subject to site plan control for each of the municipalities. And so I've asked for, we would prefer wording at the end of that section that would just be properties within Asphodel-Norwood may be exempt from that section for 122I, where deemed appropriate by the municipality. And the only reason for this is if somebody comes forward with a small scale event venue, then we would want to proceed with a development agreement and bring it to council and show them the plans and show them that we've looked after, you know, various things like parking and hours of operation and the noise and the maximum occupant load, so that we can nail down, including, you know, like the number of guests and employees or owners, nail down lighting, garbage, the works, so that we know that it's small scale. And we may even enter into some kind of a licensing agreement that requires an annual licensing, but we're not there yet to discuss that part. And that's just to make sure that if somebody that had a small event venue that got out of hand, then we wouldn't renew that license until we go through the appropriate zoning bylaw amendment and the appropriate site plan control bylaw. So any really large scale operation, we would still probably go through the zoning bylaw amendment and the site plan control agreement process. But just for very small scale startup, small scale ones, we want to be able to have that flexibility. And so that's about it. This is a great plan. I'm very proud to be part of it and to represent Asphodel-Norwood, and I think it's very good. And so if there's any questions, I'd be happy to speak to them.
Thank you, Ed. I'm sure there will be some questions or comments anyways. Councillor Ward, I see in your hand, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to commend both you and Candace for the input and what council had a chance to also say, because, you know, I'm reading through and, you know, you can see questions that we had and you've been able to identify them and get them into the official plan. I did have one question, and I don't know if you can answer it, if it's even relevant. Do you think there's any spots where natural heritage and maybe chance of an MZO? Or do you think that you're confident that we've covered all the bases, that that would never be something that would be over, that the MZO would step in and do something for a development?
I think the MZO is mainly municipal driven. And so if we needed something to happen now, then we could present that to the province for like an emergency zoning amendment. Boom, there you go. And it happens. I think that'd be very rare.
Mhm.
And possibly if we want something to happen and we do it properly and the planning is all there that answers all the concerns and the questions, and council supports it and staff support it. And we may have the odd person that they just don't want to see any development or something like that, you know. We try to please everybody.
No, I know. And thank you for that answer.
Candace, you had your hand up there?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, a couple of things. So the MZOs definitely, I haven't seen anything in the province that was kind of overrode a municipal council. So the municipal council was always in full support of the ministry applying an MZO to a specific site. It would be very difficult, I know from me and my chair, and I'm sure Ed would feel the same, in regards to advocating for an MZO on a residential development. Relationship building with the developers out of the gate and ensuring that the community is being heard and following appropriate planning processes is key. Now, when it comes to commercial and industrial development, if you have a commercial or industrial development that wanted to come to a municipality that would create 30, 40, 50 jobs, they're on an immense timeline. Maybe an opportunity like that would exist, but I think would have to be very unique and very rare, because you're taking out the public process when you do that. And based on the documents that we currently have, and as a reminder of council, that once this official plan is formally adopted by the province and approval is received, then we have to go at our municipal zoning bylaw and do a full amendment there. So that conversation I suspect will pop back up during the discussions of that, to ensure that we are protecting the current complement of land uses in the township, as well as being flexible enough to welcome things if the desire is so there. So it's just striking that balance between the two. But as we sit right here, I don't see that. The official plan has been ongoing since 2019. There has, sitting here, I don't see any red herrings, any red flags sitting there that are going to create additional red tape or barriers to land use development that our residents want and property owners want. That said, it's impossible to predict what a landowner would want to do potentially to a parcel of land. So the goal is to kind of get the best fit approach to land uses, and then you're going to still see official plan amendments. But the goal is to try to find them so that they're not unnecessarily being done, I guess, is the key, and that we're trying to hit as many properties as we can with the mapping. And I think overall, we're in a really, really good position. There is one, Ed, we did chat about, we spoke to the county staff in regards to accommodations for diversified farm use. And I believe you have some language that you spoke to Keziah Holden at the county about that we should add to the resolution for council's consideration prior to adoption of today's report. Outside of that, it's been 3 years, been a long time coming. And I'm sure county staff is pleased. But really, to be honest with you, going into this, Ed and I did not think we would land where we landed with as much cooperation from the consultants. And the biggest thing is they allowed the opportunity for our voices to be heard. And boy, was our voice heard, and we made our voices heard loudly. And they listened. They had a willing spirit at the other end, which is key to getting anything done. So I'm very, very pleased, and we'll just add that language to the resolution, Mayor, prior to adoption, if you don't mind. Ed, do you have it in front of you?
The the wording for the properties within Asphodel-Norwood may be exempted from that section were deemed appropriate by the municipalities.
Correct, for the accommodation on diversified uses that you ran by Keziah Holden yesterday.
Okay.
Are you pulling it up or do you want me
Yes.
to find it? Okay.
Well, you'd probably find it faster than me, but I'll look.
Don't ask me to pull it up. Did anyone else have any comments? Just so if there's your, okay, Barry, I just wondered. Thanks.
Yeah, just, I think the big thing is just, it's really great to hear that our input was well received and heard, and changes made that reflect what we kind of want to do within our township. So that's really awesome to hear. I think just two other things. One is, and I really don't think it impacts us as much, but I know one contentious issue seems to still be the short-term rentals, more, I guess, around lakeside property. We don't seemingly have that as an issue in our township, which is awesome. But if it did become an issue, is that something we can deal with in local bylaws? If it does?
Yes, we can through you.
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay. And I think really just my last comment is, I believe this is out for final input from residents right now. Is that, what is the kind of next step in timing?
Yeah, it's back out for a commenting period, so the draft has been recirculated, and I do honestly believe this is the final kick at the can. So we'll have to submit any comments from council today, and then the county staff will kind of put all the comments together, take it forward to county council, and then maybe the mayor give more of an idea of how the flavor is at county council for adoption. I know they were kind of aiming before early July to have that adoption in place, but I don't know if they're going to hit that date or not.
I think it's getting there. I do think that with some of the talk back from some of the different townships that they county staff have come around to listen a little bit more as to, we live and breathe it every day here. And we're all diversified difference with the 8 different municipalities. So, there's no choice. They had to listen. That's just the way it had to be. But I think, Barry, when you brought up that, say B&Bs and whatever that in the lakefronts and whatever, I don't see county getting involved in something like that. It'd be just a fiasco for the next 5 years, like it is with the ATV stuff, because there's so many different aspects coming from different angles that county doesn't have a clue that way. And I think in the long run, I would probably convince them to stay out of something like that as best we can.
And it'd be dealt with municipally, locally.
Yep.
Fair.
Mayor, I do have the motion. I have it in front of me whenever you're ready to call it.
Sure. I just wanted one more comment on this, is that as this council's concerned, for our official plan and with the good, the work behind the scenes with our staff, like you said, it's been a long 3 years, and I can't say enough as to how we all collaboratively work together to make it better for our residents as best we can with what we have to work with, because the province still basically sets out guidelines that we have to follow as far as our official plan is concerned, and all we can do is tweak it here and there and do a few things like that. So my hat's off to staff for going to bat for us, and it just goes to show how well we did as a collective group of council to say that we're open for business, and that's where we're at. So good job, well done from everyone. So I'll take that resolution with the motion then, if you want to read it out for me, somebody please.
Of course, thank you, Mayor. That the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding an official plan update for information, and further that the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood direct township staff to provide the following comment to Peterborough County staff for Peterborough County Council consideration. That the properties within Asphodel-Norwood may be exempted from section 4.1.2.2.I where deemed appropriate by the municipality.
Okay, thank you. Motion by Councillor Archer, I seen your hand. Seconded by Councillor War. Any other comments, questions, concerns on the motion? See no hands, all in favor. Thank you. Job well done, staff. All right, on to R4, Melanie Hudson, our Deputy Clerk. And this report is regarding our community safety and well-being plan. Melanie, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Mayor. And through you, I just wanted to say a quick thank you at the outset. Just thank you to Council and our CAO for your support and patience in getting here today. It hasn't exactly been a straightforward path in getting here, but I am very pleased to be presenting to you today, and I do hope to receive your support in adoption as we move forward. So I'm just going to hopefully share my screen, if you'll bear with me.
Let's hope it doesn't shut all our machines down. Technology
That's the last
today.
thing we want.
Oh, goodness.
Can you see that okay?
I see your name up there. It's still a blank black screen for us.
Oh, here we
Here we
go.
go.
There you go.
There it is there.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the plan in front of us. Okay, thank you. So as council knows, this plan is provincially legislated. So every municipality in the province must complete and adopt a community safety wellbeing plan. Now, COVID did present challenges in meeting the initial deadlines, but the Solicitor General was amenable to receiving this plan by spring of this year. And it's not technically summer yet, so I'm hopeful we can still meet this target. The province also did state that they prefer a regional joint plan approach. So we aligned ourselves with the townships of Cabot Monaghan and Otonabee South Monaghan to produce this plan. And we began by forming an advisory committee. Forgive me. And we were very grateful to have their support and guidance over the past few months. It was invaluable, really. But we began by polling the committee, asking for their thoughts on what's most pressing in our communities at this time. And then we took that data and went out to public consultation. So as you saw in the plan, there is a summary of the public consultation survey, and we included that as an appendix to the plan. So then, of course, we went back to the advisory committee and we got their guidance in drilling down that data into our 4 key priority areas. So for us, that was access to health, and that includes physician recruitment, mental wellness, and physical health supports. Secondly, community belonging. And we thought this one came to the forefront partly because of COVID, but also because of the growth we're seeing. But the good news is, as we're emerging from the pandemic, we're seeing more in-person events, community events in general. So hopefully we can start rebuilding those connections and welcoming our new residents quite quickly and work at that priority. Thirdly was community supports. And the phrasing of this was very important to the committee. We want this plan to be inclusive. We want everyone in the community to feel supported and have access to the services and supports they need. And lastly is housing security. No surprise there, it's a hot topic, but one that does require ongoing advocacy and support. So as you saw, each priority has a goal and supporting actions and indicators of success. So I won't go through it all point by point. I know you've read it in the agenda package, but I think it's fair to say that some of these priorities might be a little bigger than us, but the intention of this plan is to build upon the good work already being done, promote those, connect those dots for people, and just help keep community wellness and safety and well-being in mind when we're decision-making and priority setting. I hope this plan was well laid out and easy to follow and speaks for itself in many ways, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take those. But as I mentioned earlier, I am hopeful to receive your support today in adoption so I can report back to our partner townships. So thank you.
Great. Good job, Melanie. Thank you very much. All right. I see Councillor War's hand up there. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor. Just a comment. Thank you. It's really well laid out, and I don't think it would have been done if I think that our township staff hadn't spearheaded it. And I think that the collaboration with the townships that align with us, it works out so well because it's kind of the north side of Rice Lake running into the Trent River. And I think it all complements not just the residents, but the way that people live. And so I think that that was really well done. And the second comment too, like I looked at the resources and I could see how much that we relied on things that Asphodel-Norwood Township and staff have already supplied, like the master rec plan, the official plan, and how much that impacted what you guys were doing, putting this together. And the fact that there was 62% of the respondents to the surveys were Asphodel-Norwood residents. Well done. I just wanted to compliment you on that. I think it's a well laid out document and it's easy to read, and let's hope it all gets finished.
Only if I call a motion, I guess. Anyway, any other comments at this time? Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, and basically just to echo what Councillor War said, well done, Melanie and team. No surprise really that the top 4 things that rose to the top, we've saw that in a lot of our own surveys within, finding out what our local residents are. So it's just kind of good that that's reinforced again, and no, just well done, and I'm sure it'll be adopted, no problem today.
Candace, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, so just quick. So we were able to, thank you to council for the support and the change of direction. That happened approximately 5 months ago. And in 5 months, we were able to get from change in direction to a completed plan while staying compliant with all the legislation as far as forming committees and ensuring that the public process was followed that they directed within 5 months. Melanie did a fantastic job pulling the 2 townships together and keeping the project on task and in alignment with the expectations of the province. You got to imagine there's 3 CAOs involved, there's 3 councils involved, there's 3 deputy clerks involved. So all of that does take some managing, and she did a fantastic job. So thank you to Melanie for pulling it together. Job well done. And I cannot wait to publicize this report, and we'll leave it at that.
Yeah, me too. Councillor Archer, please.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say the same thing. It's a great job. All well done, very well written. So at this time, I'll make a motion.
All right. Councillor Archer's made the motion, seconded by Councillor Walsh. Is there any other comments, concerns, questions? I just had the one comment, I guess, or I just wondered, was there any other townships that you reached out to that didn't get involved with us, or was those the first 2 of your choice?
So we did have a meeting of the minds, we'll call it, as far as to discuss potentially the frustrations that were being experienced with the previous approach. So we did speak with our neighbors to the east and another neighbor to the north, but they made the decision to stay in alignment just due to the staff resourcing that they had available at the time. They felt it was a better fit to kind of stay on the course and the path that they were on. Obviously, they are still on that course and working their way through that, but we only kind of reached out to our neighbors that made geographical sense. So obviously, the lower tiers in the most northern part of Peterborough County wouldn't necessarily make, they just have a different, more of a tourism focus and other things happening up there in cottage country. So we stayed more to like the southern border of the county. And so we met, and these 3 municipalities decided to make a go of it and create a regional plan. And to be honest with you, 8 lower tier municipalities plus a city adopting the same plan and trying to keep an alignment and reach milestones and report on that plan and keep it active and moving would be a huge challenge. I think we're going to be much more successful with a smaller plan, recognizing a smaller geographical area and a smaller number of people. We'll be able to put something forward and have the plan actually do what the province intended for it to do. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, so it's motions with a seconder. So the recommendation, I guess, is that we accept the report. I guess we all know what the recommendation was. So all in favor, please. And then that's carried. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much, Melanie, on that one. Our 5 then would be Candace White, our CAO Clerk Treasurer. And this is regarding the 2022 storm update from a few weeks ago. Go ahead, Candace, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. So township staff felt it was important to provide council with a comprehensive update of the impacts of the storm that tore through Ontario and Quebec, approximately 1,000 kilometers long on May 21st of 2022. So the long weekend, I think, of 2022 of May will be a day that we'll never forget, that's for sure. So in front of you is a brief timeline of what township staff responded to, how we responded to it, and the ongoing efforts that are taking place and will continue to take place. So you can see immediately township staff responded. Firefighters were out and about dealing with the emergency calls. Township staff were out and about dealing with specifically road closures and down power lines, the most imminent health and safety concerns that presented themselves at the time. Of course, as the days followed, we continued to move forward with dealing with residents' concerns, residents' issues, trying to get as many posts out on social media and the websites as possible to try to inform residents, trying to keep council abreast of things that were moving forward. As a management team, we met on the Sunday and then again midweek, where the mayor declared a significant weather event, just to highlight the fact that obviously it was significant and it was weather driven and it did cause some chaos. The mayor can speak to, if he wishes, why he chose not to declare an emergency as other municipalities did. But for my chair as chair of the EOC, one of the biggest drivers is the impact to operations. And based on discussions that day, we were running at 98% of operational capacity. As a corporation, we were not dealing with emergencies as of that date that we weren't able to address or handle with the current financial resources and staffing resources that we have on site. It was also important for the mayor to realize that regardless of whether we declared an emergency or not, the funding was still going to be available through provincial channels. That resolution does not stop the ability for the municipality or its residents to recoup any costs through provincial grant. So moving on from there, obviously, there is some things that are highlighted through as any emergency, no matter how many tabletop exercises we do, which we do one every year, and staff does a great job with them. But ultimately, until you're actually living it and making those decisions on a, snap of the fingers type process, and you start to learn, okay, we need to deal with this, this, and this. And there is a few things that I'd like to draw council's attention to that came out of this year's storm. One of them being backup generator power at the Public Works facility. That's going to be something that we will be recommending to be put into budget. The biggest thing is to run the fuel system. It's great. We have lots of local farmers and residents and businesses that were more than willing to provide that valuable resource to township to be able to ensure that our services move forward. That said, I don't think we should be relying on that generosity, and we need to be self-serving. Also, that's where our fire chief's office is. That's where our public works manager's office is. And those are two key positions in any emergency to be able to ensure that them and their staff have all the resources they need at their home base to be able to conduct business. So that is one. The other one being the opportunity to maybe install a smaller unit generator at the Westwood Library in order to have a facility that has hydro still and amenities still, whether that's a charging center, whether that's other types of facilities in the rural part of the township. If transportation becomes an issue, we got to remember we had roads closed everywhere. So maybe there wouldn't be the ability to get into the village of Norwood to access if we were to open the town hall or the community center that already have backup generators installed, then maybe that is an opportunity for something we can take a look at. Obviously, the Norwood Library is also an option, and we can have that discussion at budgetary talks, but considering we already have two facilities in the township that have backup power, it made sense to maybe go into the rural parts to provide that valuable service to them. The other concern, of course, was potable water. That was taken a look at. There's no township facility that currently has an outside lockable bin bib with a backflow preventer on it to protect the township's municipal water system to be able to provide that resource to township residents. So that was not something we can do, and it's not something that we could have installed obviously very quickly in the middle of an emergency. And the water and wastewater operations manager would prefer that not to happen on his site at the water treatment plant or the wastewater treatment plant. So that said, another opportunity has presented itself due to the landscaping that's going to happen at the front of the town hall. So as you know, we have the sidewalks all done. There's some concerns there in regards to unlevel ground because we haven't had the topsoil and the grass seed installed there. So that's going to be happening at the end of this month. So in order to ensure that our grass seed doesn't die and the new shrubs that are going to be planted there don't die and they're able to take root, we're going to install a lockable outside bib at the town hall. We're hoping that the plumbers will be able to accommodate us and put it on the north side of the building, so facing the other laneway. So then we can access it. It obviously will be lockable and it'll be satisfactory to Kyle to ensure that his system is protected from a backflow perspective. And then we'll be able to water the grass and whatnot there. And then we do have one outside bib that's on the municipal drinking water system that, of course, that we guarantee is potable, is tested regularly, all of those sorts of things. And if we end up in this situation again, we'll then have that other laneway there. So we're not blocking traffic. There's ability for 2 or 3 people to line up and wait. Again, it wouldn't be for large tankers or bulk water. It would be more established for, drinking water purposes or people to come and do totes and things like that. So that is also that is taking place. It's just going to be killing 2 birds for one stone, so to speak, because we've already got the quotes in hand and I already authorized the work to commence yesterday. So that's going to take place. As you can see, township staff have been out. We did provide some very valuable services to township residents. The transfer station was open for 6 days, for 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We took in shingles for free, any rotten type foods from fridges and freezers that residents need to get rid of. We also took that for free as long as it was in a clear bag, and all brush, trees, wood, debris is all up there. And I don't know if anyone's been up to the transfer station as of late, but wow, there is a massive amount and it's still coming. It's still coming in. So I believe that was well received by the residents, and that is something that we would continue moving forward. That transfer station will be open as quick as we can get it open and for as long as it needs to be open. We did also provide, that is unique to Asphodel-Norwood Township, is the roadside wood chipping service. That is not something that you're going to see in all municipalities. So what is happening is residents are able to pull that brush and debris out to the curbside as long as it remains in the road allowance, and the township crews went around and wood chipped and got rid of it that way. We did take 2 passes of the village that was completed as of last Friday. That said, we are going to come back around in 3 to 4 weeks. There is some residents that maybe had some larger trees in their backyards where they're struggling to get the brush to the curb. And they were scrambling and rushing, trying to get resources in place to get that done. All of the tree removing companies, as you can imagine, have received an abundant amount of calls and everybody's on a wait list. So as soon as that work is done and they're able to get it out to the curbs, 3 to 4 weeks, we'll make one more pass of the village. And then of course, at that point in time, it'll be, please feel free to bring everything up to the transfer station. In the meantime, we have commenced operations in the rural part of the township. So the brush head is out and about doing its thing, being followed by the wood chipper, based on an assessment by the manager of public works in a meeting that we had this morning prior to today's meeting. It's onerous. It's taking up a lot of township time and a lot of township resources to continue this on. When you look at what the township has on its plate, based on even just the staff reports that council has seen today, obviously 2022 outside of the storm needs to move forward. There's a certain amount of capital projects that we need to complete. COVID put us, everyone behind to a certain degree, and we can't continue to allow that trend. So we have talked about outsourcing. This morning, we chatted about outsourcing some of the ability to have some of that work done to get some of the deep ditches cleaned up. The other concern is a safety of township staff, whether that's poison ivy, some of the deep ditches, and some of it, we just don't have the equipment with the claw to reach down and pull it all out, the trees to get it out. So The numbers that we're going to discuss in the financial impact that I'm going to explain to you in a moment will be altered based on hiring of outside contractors to come in and assist us with that cleanup, that have the proper equipment in some of the areas that we need it. That will also free up staff. We have vacations starting. We have long-term staff in that department, as you know, which have the maximum vacation allotment based on our vacation policy. That said, the emergency is essentially over, so the ability to be able to not grant them their vacation is not there. So we need to allow them to move forward. So we're going to be running on a skeleton crew to begin with, so we're going to need some help. The Mill Pond trails remain closed. Township staff are up there today. That is their priority. And wow, so much destruction on the trails. So they're hoping by the end of the week, they're going to have the paths opened. So they have equipment, they have the skid steer in the back up there. They're hauling the trees out off the pathways to be able to cut them up and get them gone. The bigger concern is the hanging trees that are off the paths that are out there. And it's astronomical, the number of trees. It's not something that our township staff is going to be able to tackle all on their own, and definitely not within the next couple of weeks. So if we choose to open the trails, once the paths are opened, or the trees that are closest to the trails, we're going to have to aggressively sign all the areas to state that, that you are using at your own risk. Please do not venture off the trails. Please stay on marked areas. And then over the course of the winter, I think is where we're going to tackle some of these larger hanging trees that are in the branches. We literally have fields of poison ivy up there as well. That is also a pretty major concern, where township staff is literally wading through fields of poison ivy. So I suspect that is also a concern from a health and safety perspective, that we can't be expecting staff to do that. So there's a few caveats at play, but the goal, because obviously we want to have a trails day, we have that fabulous project that we partnered with the Lions Club on. So we want to get that up and moving and have a good news story, because we all need one. So trying to get the trails day up and moving. So stay tuned. I'm hoping to be able to reach out to the trails committee as soon as the paths are opened and we have the signage in hand and installed, to be able to pick a date to hold that trails day event. So of course we'll let council know when that happens and when that occurs. The cemetery has been reopened. It was closed due to trees being down. Township staff, as well as township committee board members, went out and helped the cemetery board contractor get that up and moving. I understand that there is a few little odds and ends to clean up there, but for the most part, there has been services being held. Based on operations, before I get into the financial impact, is there any questions, concerns, or comments from council before we get into the money?
Councilor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. I just had a question before you got into the finances. Does the township own a wood chipper in its complement of equipment? I see that there was a wood chipper rental. I was just curious if is that part of the complement of our equipment?
It's yeah, there's just been a long-standing inside joke with the mayor for his duration on council in regards to a wood chipper, and we'll leave it at that. That's what the smiles are for. But no, so the township does not own a wood chipper. It has been discussed multiple times. I can tell you the reason we don't own one is my understanding that many years ago, there was one owned by the village or the township, and it was divested of many years ago, and it was never replaced. And the reason being is, on a traditional year without this, it would do a lot of sitting. It would do a lot of sitting, and it would sit a lot. So until you see an event like this, Peter and I have chatted about it. Is there a need or a warrant? And I mean, obviously right now the cost of everything is astronomical. So you can imagine to step out and buy a wood chipper right now is going to look much different than if we purchased it 5 years ago. So it's on the talks, it's on the table to do a feasibility calculation to see how many years it would take to repay itself. And I have a feeling it would take a fair number of years outside of a storm to repay itself. We do rent it a couple of weeks a year, traditionally to deal with some stuff, but outside of that, short answer, no, we don't own one.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, I just have a comment. I just, as part of the committee for the emergency, part of how the township worked was, first of all, I can't say enough for the managers and all the folks that come out to help and made this possible, because I mean, it was very tough. The only part out of the whole thing that was, I think, disappointing on the township side of things is the rubberneckers that actually went out there to look around, that actually interfered and slowed down the process of the cleanups and some of the more dangerous roads that we have as people are coming into the town and there's trees down, and our first responders are out there trying to clean places up and walk around, and they're all in their heavy gear and their helmets and their chainsaws are going, and then all of a sudden there's a car going by at 2 miles an hour. So it was a bit disappointing and a bit frustrating, I believe, for some of our staff. But as mayor, I can't say enough, and I know council backs me up on this, as to how well our first responders and our township staff, they just got at it and got it done and got our main arteries open. Yes, there was some troubles in the rural areas, but for the most part, we did what we had to do to get it done, and very proud and very thankful. And also to all the owners of different businesses that came together to help us out, and some of the rural community that came forward to help with fuel and one thing after another. We can't say enough what a great township this is to live in. So thank you to all that were involved, very much so. Candace, if you want to go on with your report, that'd be great then. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of, obviously, that a disaster and emergency such as this was not budgeted for, which means the following expenses are, of course, outside of budget. So there's a couple of avenues that can be used. Obviously, township staff have been speaking with the township's insurers. There is some interesting caveats when it comes to a storm such as this. Each scenario has to be looked at on its own. So whether you got to imagine, so if a tree falls on a facility, that's one policy. If a tree falls on a vehicle, that's another policy. If a tree blocks a road, whether it's liability or maybe it's not even covered, unblocking a road, I'm not really sure our insurance. So bottom line is the insurance company and I are taking a look at all of the expenses that are still being incurred. That's the other thing. We're not at the end of this. This is just an update. It's not a final report. This is where we've landed. This is estimates. It's approximate. It could change greatly. It could change minimally. I just wanted to give you guys some sort of idea of where we stand. So outside of the insurance route, there is a municipal disaster recovery assistance program, the MDRA, that is provided by the MMEH, the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So the minister does have the ability to open a claim on behalf of our township under certain circumstances. One of them being that all expenses, of course, are eligible, which includes capital costs to repair any infrastructure or property, operating costs that are above and beyond regular budget. Obviously, they're not going to cover costs that we pay an insurance premium to cover. So it would have to be outside of that. And anything that is outside of what we would budget anyway. For instance, the town hall roof. The town hall roof was budgeted to be replaced in 2022. So as a treasurer, I can't sign off on a declaration to say that that's an eligible expense because we budgeted for it to replace this year, so it's budgeted. Any salaries for staff. The staff has been amazing. Outside of public works, we've had building, planning, water, wastewater, parks and rec, all when in municipal office employees, if they've had the ability to, they've taken days and went out and hauled brush. Again, it's budgeted salary. Regardless of what tasks are completed that day, it's budgeted. So the only thing that falls outside of it is overtime. So any sort of overtime that was incurred when the disaster itself happened at that time, that long weekend where everyone was reporting, And again, as council know, management team doesn't get paid overtime hours. So it's just for the staff that was out and about working on that weekend. So overtime is going to be fairly minimal. Again, fire department, it's more challenging to determine what's in budget because I don't know the number of calls that they're going to get in a year. So, you know, the fire department received a call, they go out. I suspect that their salaries will be ineligible under the program. We would be expected to cover under any emergency the cost of our first responders. The review process by the minister would include the cause and extent of damage and the initial claim submitted by the municipality. It would need a resolution of council to state that we want to submit a claim under this program to the minister. So again, we have that time will tell. It all depends on where we land on obviously the insurance company. We're done incurring costs, so we know what we're claiming, as well as the approach that's being recommended by staff. I believe we have 4 months from the date of the disaster to incur costs under the funding program. So we do have a bit of time. We're running at about 3 weeks. So since that, some days it feels longer, some days feels like yesterday, but it's about 3 weeks that we've been dealing with the storm. Again, the other biggest caveat in regards to the funding program is it has to meet 3% of the municipal tax threshold, which in our case is approximately $105,000, which represents 3% of our municipal tax levy. As of right now, when you take a look at all the expenses that have been incurred to date, and the stuff that we're anticipating that's coming or is in the works as of now, we're going to be sitting at about $108,000. That does not include what I opened this report with the subcontracting out of some assistance in the rural parts of the township, just when you look at the sheer number of kilometers that we have to cover. So that will be added on top of that. So I suspect if I had to guess, I think we're going to land around 150. I think that's probably where we're going to land. If we are, of course, then if we are able to, it's a 75-25 split. So, you know, if my 108 holds true, then obviously the cost of the storm to the ratepayers would be approximately $27,000 and the remainder would be covered by the funding. Again, that isn't what I think we're going to see because the insurance company will obviously be covering some of these costs, but I don't see them covering it all. The biggest concern is going to be once you pull what the insurance company is going to cover out of it, is 105,000 threshold still going to be met?
Yeah, are we going to still be there?
So there's lots of moving parts here that we've got to think about, but well, of course, I would report back to council and let you know, but ultimately, having this storm so close on the heels of the COVID pandemic, when the human spirit of all of us was just starting to rally, obviously took a hit, but I would say neighborly love prevailed. It was astronomical to see around this township, the neighbors helping neighbors and people worried about other people. As a township, we did the best that we could to provide services to those that we could, to those that reached out. But I think overall within 6 days or so, 6 to 7 days, we were basically, for the most part, back up and running. Obviously, the long-term effects continue, but the day-to-day for most residents were back up and running in the 6 to 7 day mark. But as we all know, from a personal standpoint, it's the longest 6 to 7 days of your life. So, of course, I will take any questions of council.
Go ahead, Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. Well, granted, if we do get the MDRA program and we get that assistance, that will, greatly reduce what we would have. It was a disaster in so many places. We would be getting off lightly. My question is, what are your thoughts on the insurance renewals and how it's going to impact all of the municipalities in Ontario with the risk management going forward? Like, we knew that we had an 18% increase in insurance for the municipality last year. What are your thoughts on increases for that for this coming budget?
I suspect we'll see the same again. Again, with the provincial election, AMO and all municipalities have been advocating strongly for the province to step in regards to insurance premiums and the impacts. We struggle. Municipalities, there's not a lot of insurance companies out there or underwriters that'll take a municipal portfolio on. It's getting slimmer and slimmer. And as we know, as the pool of companies that offer a service reduce, the cost goes up. So that alone, not to mention the number of claims have been going up across the province. And the pandemic is a driver. The fact that we have an aging population across, and this is not Asphodel-Norwood driven, this is industry wide, that's also a driver. So I definitely think we're going to see the same. I mean, I'm planning for 20%. We've already started budget talks, believe it or not, for 2023. So we're already planning on 20%. I don't think this storm is going to help that at all. All I'm hoping, the premium is definitely a concern. My bigger concern is hoping that there's underwriters that survive after this storm and after the devastation to write our policies. But I guess time will tell. Come September, October-ish, they'll reach out with the premium negotiated rate and see where we go from there. We are in a position, as you know, certain claims within the township that have been long sustaining have been dealt with. And so we are in a position to procure insurance and go out to market. We have had that conversation at the CAO table. There's a few of us in that position. And there is concern when you go out to market and procure it that you're not going to receive the bids and then you're not going to get your same insurer back. So it is a bit of a roll of the dice. So again, there's obviously some conversations that have to happen to be able to determine what's in the best interest of the municipality. And sometimes that isn't always going to market. So stay tuned. Obviously more information is coming in the fall.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, Candace, thank you very much for the update. It was very specific and detailed, and yeah, it was definitely a crazy week. I just want to echo what everybody has said. Thank you to all your team and staff and everybody in the township. It really was great to see lots of community spirit, people out helping other people, which we've been cooped up for a couple of years, so it was really kind of nice for people to get outside and talk about something other than COVID. So as much as it was a damaging storm for a lot of people. And another nice thing I think for us is it's nice to see that we do have some learnings coming out of this, things that we can always do better, you know what? And so it's nice to, things like the backup generator at the public works yard, a generator in Westwood, potable water. Those are all great learnings that, unfortunately come out of disasters like this, that we learn from, that we're even better prepared for the next time. So no, thank you again to all the staff. Great job, well done. And yeah, would have been some long days that Saturday and Sunday after it happened for sure.
Yes. Not a lot of sleep happening those days, that's for sure. But thank you. It's all of our pleasure. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any comments? I have a comment. I guess when you talk about the trees, Candace, there's going to be some more discussion. There's some like half trees still on some of our even on Highway 7 on our township line or whatever. They might be highway trees or whatever. There's still a lot of half trees out there that need to come down, and one thing after another. So like you said, the expense isn't going to stop as of yet. So we still got lots to do and lots to carry on with.
I agree, Mayor. There's going to be expense outside of the 4 months.
Sorry.
There's no possible way. So Peter has to, and I have to do he's going to do an assessment, present it to me to have a conversation about what we're going to bite off this year. Because obviously we're going to have to put trees in almost 3 categories. Yeah. There's going to be, obviously there's the imminent trees that we've been dealing with for the last 3 weeks. Then there's going to be, the trees that are off of the road allowance or in the road allowance, but off of the travel portion that are maybe broken, those sorts of things. And then there's going to be the trees that are preventative and proactive removals. Yeah. And that is not going to happen in 2022. No. It's just not possible. That said, that is a tougher conversation. As we all know, regardless of what file we're talking about, we could be talking about a planning application right down to building a playground to road reconstruction. The biggest conversation with any resident is about trees. Trees are vital. That's why we have tree preservation plans. We have tree canopy policies. It's built into the official plan. It's very, very important. Trees are, I think, as of right now, the flavor of the community and the flavor of staff is a love-hate relationship, obviously. So we're going to have to balance that out as to, okay, Yes, we have to preserve nature from an environmental perspective. We're all stewards in that, right? But we need to ensure that we are doing some due diligence in some of the roadways and striking that balance. We can't go clear cut every tree in a road allowance. It's just not feasible. But I suspect there's going to be some trees that fall into that category 3 that may appear healthy from the outside, but have maybe their root mass and their stabilization has been affected from the storm, and it may not be fallen now, but it's compromised. So the next windstorm, it'll be the first to go.
Yep.
So it's a good point to bring up, Mayor, because that is definitely something we should chat about, and it's going to be an ongoing conversation because it's going to be hard. Cutting down trees that appear to be viable is tough. It's not easy. And then of course, a tree that's 50 years old takes 50 years to grow. So I'm going to replace it with a 12-foot tree that's going to, and that's the trade-off. And we're going to put it obviously somewhere else. And there's no way we're going to be able to be compliant with our tree preservation plan or tree canopy policy because we don't have enough township property to replant the number of trees that have been lost in this township due to the storm. We just don't have the places to put them. But we will replant as many as we possibly can that make sense.
Yeah, thanks. That's why I brought it up, because I just being out there and chatting with some of the residents out there, it's like 5 years ago, it's like, don't go near my tree. And now it's like, when's that tree coming down? So, I mean, like you said, it's a love-hate, but I do think it's an opportunity though for different service clubs, whoever, or even individuals through EdBack, possibly that we could turn around and get donations of trees to come back in without actually having to hit the taxpayer's base to replant them. But it could be a way to put something out there to the people to say, hey, we may have an opportunity to supply trees for some of the town here or in the township, like Westwood or the Heights, and one thing after another, where some trees did come down close to our property lines, and one thing after another. So it's an opportunity for the township to get together again on a project. So I think it's, like we said, we learn from what's going on. So any other comments, questions, concerns on this report? All right, seeing no hands. So then the recommendation then today is that we receive this report for information only. Motion by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other questions, concerns? Nothing. All in favor? And then that's carried. Thank you. All right, Candace, R6 then. This is regarding our renewal of agreement for our Integrity Commissioner services.
Thank you, Mayor. So as this council is aware, Bill 68, the Modernization of Ontario's Municipal Legislation Act in 2017 changed the landscape basically of municipal governments. One of the biggest and most significant changes was the introduction of the mandatory Integrity Commissioner contract, which included the Council Code of Conduct that established the guidelines around relationships between council members and members of staff and the responsibilities that lie with each. It clearly outlines and defines what the responsibility is of council as policymakers and lawmakers through bylaw, strategic direction, official plan, et cetera. And of course leaves operational decisions, et cetera, to township staff. The oversight of that policy to ensure that that continues and that relationship remains positive and respectful is enforced and governed by the Integrity Commissioner. So each municipality has to appoint an Integrity Commissioner to provide that service. So that agreement is up with our current provider coming up in September. And prior to heading into the one meeting per month, the township staff felt important. We might as well deal with it now. And township staff is recommending that we continue on with the same Integrity Commissioner that has been appointed, that was appointed through procurement with Peterborough County. So he represents multiple municipalities. The agreement is with Cunningham, Swan, Cardy, Little, and Bonham LLP, but our main point of contact has been Tony Fleming. Also, outside of that, they are there to provide advice and opinions to the chairs, members of local boards, and those whom the code applies, even outside of members of council. So when council appoints through bylaw members to its volunteer committees and boards, those members are also expected to conduct themselves as outlined in the council code of conduct. It also applies to those members and is also enforced through the integrity commissioner. The integrity commissioner outside of the council code of conduct also looks at any violations of any legislation or act, such as the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. And any time a councillor has a concern in regards to conflict of interest, or a staff member has an issue or a concern in regards to the conduct of a council member, then those are examples of what would be appropriate to contact the integrity commissioner to discuss. Obviously, if it's a severe enough violation, an investigation could commence, and that would be taken on by the integrity commissioner, and a report would come back to the clerk in order to make its way to council. And of course, depending on the circumstance, it would, whether it was public or not. And the integrity commissioner is an independent contractor. They are not an employee of the municipality. They don't report to any of us. They are a separate entity. They only provide a service through agreement. They also provide education. So at any point in time, if we want to hold an education session on the council code of conduct, which we do at the beginning of any term of council, then he would come provide an education as to, this is the code of conduct, this is the pieces of legislation as a council you need to be concerned about. As staff, this is what your role is as to ensure that operations of the business and the direction of council is followed. The hourly rate has not changed, so financial implication remains the same. So the hourly rate, no change there. So the fee structure remains. It has to date been nominal at best. We do put a slight amount in the budget each year in case the service is asked, and if a staff member or a community member or a member of council needs to utilize their services, then of course the fee is directly back to the municipality when it comes to council members and staff. So I will leave it with council for any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. Your reports are so detailed. Good job. Yep. Any questions, comments, or concerns? It's pretty straightforward. Same follow. Councillor Ward, please.
Sorry, I have two questions. One, I was just wondering, because you said it was nominal, the amount that we used, just curious, how many times in the past, this past term of council has the integrity commissioner been used? And the second one, when we're looking at the budget, would that line be included in legal fees, or is it on a line in itself if we were looking for it and when we do budget talks coming up?
Sure. Great questions through you, Mayor. So once in this term of council, the integrity commissioner services was used for advice, which is great news. What that states is the relationship between council and staff is a positive one, and council among council is a positive one, and everyone's following their legislative responsibilities. So just once, and it's on a separate line in the budget. So you can find it on a separate line. It's under administration.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Any other questions? All right, seeing no hands, in the recommendations that we accept this report for information, and then further that the council authorized the mayor and the clerk to enter into this amendment agreement with the Integrity Commissioner Services for a term from September 1st of 2022 to September 1st, 2026. Motion by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. Any other questions on the motion? Concerns? No. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. All right, R7 then, Candace, regarding management action list, please.
Thank you. So we do have a public meeting coming up at the very next meeting of council. It's a zoning bylaw amendment that was a condition of consent that council has already seen before. Outside of that, you're hopefully going to see a Westwood well update. So township staff, I would like to speak to that a little bit. We've been pushing to try to get Peterborough Public Health, the contractor, and their consulting engineer on side to make this a priority. We need to get that facility back up and running. It's a vital amenity to have at a facility. So as of right now, I do know that quotes were received to Peterborough Public Health in regards to what needs to happen to the well. So there's two options. They want to put a camera down it, and there's some fracturing of the well. They need to open up and see if they can get rid of that sediment. Once they camera it, if that's not the way it's going to go, then they may have to have the drillers back in, drill it deeper and install more casing. One way or another, we're just trying to get it to the top of the pile. But as you can imagine, Peterborough Public Health obviously has a lot of priorities, but we're just trying to ensure that this facility remains at the top. And it's important to remember that once you're not paying for something, you lose control of something. So you're not in the driver's seat. So we're just, as Peterborough Public Health, of course, is the one paying the bills on this one. We're just constantly communicating and constantly trying to keep it at the top of everyone's minds. So hopefully we'll have more of an update for you guys at the next council meeting. Currently, we have a tender out for the water main replacement that goes in behind the businesses on County Road 45. It connects at Highway 7 and comes around and connects at Victoria. Obviously, just trying to get all of this area cleaned up at once. So hopefully we don't have to disturb them anymore. Asphalt tender results for the third line has been bumped to July. DM Wills is coming to present on June 17th. I cannot wait for this. It's going to be a very exciting day. I'm going to have the aquifer vulnerability and capacity studies in my hand. And they'll be coming on the 28th to make those presentations. So Kyle, myself, and DM Wills will be here to present to council those studies. And I can tell you, and we are going to shout it from the rooftops, that there is no shortage of water in this village, and we could probably supply water, well, forever. To all of the residents, no matter how big we get. So there is no concerns there. So that's going to be highlighted loud and clear. And of course, determining the vulnerability of the aquifer to ensure that we are moving forward with policy direction that protects the aquifer, because obviously that's our main responsibility as we sit around this table. Preliminary development agreement for Wellington Street. As we know, the LPAT case decision has been in, and DM Wills is currently providing their quote and estimate to bring that preliminary development agreement back with securities to move forward. And then we've got some recruitments out and about. Council is aware of these. So the medical center, town hall caretaker, and transfer station attendant, they are all out. And hopefully, it might be tight, but hopefully the interviews are done and reference checks are done, and we're able to advise council who are the new people that will be taking on those positions. I don't know if you noticed, but item number 19 on the report, Norwood Park Phase 4, the zoning bylaw amendment and complete application of subdivision, doesn't have a date on it in July because the developer is hoping that council would meet for a special meeting and not wait till the 26th of July. He's going to just miss the June 28th meeting and really doesn't want to lose a month just for our schedule. So that said, stay tuned. I don't know if we necessarily need to book the date today, but if we can pull together a date and time, just keep that on your radar that I may be putting out a request for a special meeting. We will be adding I would suspect the Westwood Cemetery and cemetery conversation to the action list. Again, we haven't discussed that yet, and this report comes first, but I do suspect that that'll be the direction of council. So you will see that on the list coming up as well. That's it, Mayor.
Thanks. Is there any questions, comments, concerns? I just wondered, Candace, if we don't put trees down there for next year on the very bottom of the list going forward.
It'll probably be a budget item, Mayor, to be honest with you. We'll probably address it during budget. I highly suspect we'll have to take a look at costing. Once we have the assessment done, we'll determine if we need to put like a 3-year plan together and identify all the trees and which roads they're on.
Yeah.
We may have to have an arborist in to assist with that. I mean, we're not tree professionals, so it's a stay tuned.
Very good. Thank you then. All right. If there's no questions, then that I need a motion then that we accept this report with any revisions, which we had a couple. from our CEO clerk. Councilor Walsh, I've seen your hand, seconded by Councilor Archer. Any other questions? All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, next is C7. So this is correspondence for action. Reverend Don McLean, Norwood Westwood Pastoral Charge. This is regarding the Westwood Community Cemetery. Who would like to take the lead on that one? Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. I did have some questions about this, and I was informed this is probably the first step towards possibly the township taking over the cemetery. I did have some questions, but I think that would be probably better served by staff coming back with maybe a report about the time frame, maybe the cost impact of taking over another cemetery. And I was wondering if we knew how much funds that they had in perpetual care for the cemetery board itself. And I'm sure that those are questions that may have to be addressed in the future, but I'm in favor of this going forward with more discussion, of course.
So it sounds to me, Councillor Ward, that if you alluded to a motion that a report come back from staff in the near future, or not necessarily at our next meeting, but sometime in the future, as to once all the figures and facts were presented.
Well, I would
have
have to go. Sorry, I would have to go back to Candace for what she would like for, like if it's a motion or just a staff report, or how this goes forward if we accept this correspondence and receive it.
I would suggest that council could consider a motion that states that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts correspondence C7 for information, and further that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood directs staff to bring back a report, or no, let's put it on the action list, and direct staff to add next steps for the assumption. I'm just going slow for mouth of the Westwood, what is it? Westwood
Community Cemetery.
Yeah.
Westwood Community Cemetery to the action list.
Yeah, so Councillor Ward.
Just what she said, that would be my motion.
Seconded by Councillor Walsh. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Walsh, please.
And probably just to add into this, if you're okay, Councillor Ward, is I'm sure we'll have to get some direction from BAO, which is the Bereavement Association of Ontario. I'm sure this isn't the first cemetery that this has happened to, so I'm sure they will provide some guidance to us as to how we proceed with the steps with this too.
Yes, I completely agree.
Okay, and I just want to say also that this is, I believe, Candace, maybe you can help me on this, but I think this is the first time that something like this has come forward on the Westwood Cemetery. I mean, I know I was chatted with at one time just in passing that somebody said something to me that, oh, you don't agree with anything with the Westwood Cemetery. And I said, nothing's come forward to our council at all in the last 8 years that I'm aware of about this Westwood Cemetery. But can you help me on that?
That is correct. So I can tell you that there has been informal conversations between members of the cemetery committee or Reverend McLean, but they were informal conversations. This is the very first formal step that has been taken by the Westwood United Church to approach council for our consideration to take on that cemetery. We need to have the BAO involved, so the Bereavement Authority of Ontario. So we have reached out to them based on this, because obviously it's transfer of ownership of a cemetery. So there's legislative requirements that go along with that. Obviously, there's financial requirements. A survey has to be done. A severance has to be done. Then there's the ongoing operations and maintenance of another asset. So it's not just the, how do we take this asset over? And ultimately, I do believe, and I'm going to research this, that if a volunteer board states that they are no longer able to, then it becomes a responsibility of the municipality. Like that asset, a cemetery can't be left ungoverned.
Yeah.
So it's just basically formalizing it. I do not believe we have the ability to say no.
Yeah.
When the follow steps. So it's not that we are discussing saying no to them. It is that we need to figure out what are the steps. What do we need to ensure that we're compliant with the BAO, that the Westwood United Church and their congregation and members feel satisfied with the process, and that we can figure out how we're going to manage this ongoing. As of right now, we have a volunteer cemetery board. Is that the best home for this? So, there's lots of conversations that have to happen, and I'm not prepared, to be honest with you, Mayor, to have them today because I haven't had the conversations that need to be had in order to advise council what the next steps are.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to reiterate that this is the first time it's actually come formal to us at all in my term here. And I just wanted to get that on the record, that it's not something that we were trying to ignore or something that we didn't want to take ownership of at all. But the proper channels had to be followed in order to make the process work. So, and we're looking forward to that. So anyways, we have a motion on the floor and it's duly seconded. Is there any other discussion on that motion? All in favor then? And that's carried. Thank you very much. All right, as far as the amendment of our agenda went, we've added the C8, which had to do with the road signage. Within that C8, we brought in, I believe it was C3 from a resident in our township, Francis Cardwell, about the township entrance signage, and we wanted to put it all together to one correspondence for action. So I'll leave the floor open as to who would like to start. Councillor Walsh, please.
Yeah, I will start. I've had the opportunity to read both correspondence from Francis Cardwell as well as from Janet and Mary Hay. Understand that change is never easy. Not everybody likes to see change. Personally, I do like the look of our new signs. They're clean, they're nice and bright. I think the only concern I have is the one coming into Westwood from the west end. Does seem close to the road, but Candace has assured me that it's actually further away from the road than what it was before. But I think just because it's bigger, brighter, shiny, it kind of stands out. But I think personally, this project has been all part of the branding process that we've been working on for 3-4 years. Obviously, we can't do all the branding changes at once, so they've taken place over 3 to 4 years. Residents had the opportunity to participate in that process on the picking of our new logo and the rebranding. So, I hear where people were coming from, but again, I think bottom line, if I read Janet and Mary Hay's comment that there seems to be some confusion on purpose, to me, the purpose is correct. You're entering the township of Asphodel-Norwood. That is priority number 1. Priority number 2 is you're coming into either the village of Norwood or the village of Westwood. So they should be secondary to the township having the larger font on the sign. So for the most part, I'm comfortable with what we've done. I do respect people having some concerns. I think my only recommendation back would be Frances, love her penmanship. She sat down and has drafted a great letter. It'd be nice to just respond back to her that saying, this was a 3 to 4 year process. We didn't just destroy the old signs. We've actually, I know I spoke to Candace yesterday, those old signs are still at the township yards. The Historical Society have already reached out to have one. So they're not just going to be burned and thrown away and we forget about the signs in the town of Norwood and the village of Westwood. So I think it's just, a thank you for her feedback and just provide a little bit of education on what has taken place and what is taking place with those signs.
Candace, you'd like to add to that, please?
Sure. So a couple of things. I agree with the residents in regards to the location, and Councillor Walsh and Councillor Warren, I had a conversation. I do agree that the sign coming in from it's the east end of Westwood, as you're traveling west, you see it, that the location is odd. That said, it is in the same location as the previous sign. It would have been ideal to move it further off the road, further north into the ditch. The public works manager advised in order to do that, it's an exceptionally deep ditch there that gets a fair bit of water. We would have to put a culvert in there, cover the culvert, make the ground level, and then be able to install the sign further off of the road. So that is the option. When I took a tour and drove around to see all of the new signs, yes, I understand that the previous Westwood sign was in that location. It was there. It wasn't out at the four corners. It was inside the settlement area limits. But I think because it's deeper, it's a more in your face type sign. It's bright, it's readable. I do think we need to take a look at the location of that sign. Outside of that, yes, did a little bit of research before this meeting, and all of the rebranding and the signs and all of that, those decisions were made under the previous council at the beginning of 2018, but the final tweaks to the signs were made and presented to the EDPAC committee. Now, the only decisions that the EDPAC committee made was the color of the posts, to be honest with you. They took a look at blue posts versus red posts versus white posts. Really, the focus of those signs was on a few things: anti-graffiti, reflectivity, legibility. Those were really the focuses of the conversations at that time from a township level. Obviously, we didn't want anything that rusted. We didn't want anything we'd have to paint. Obviously, we have to meet legislative requirements for reflectivity in order to ensure that it's reflective at night with headlights, those types of things, as well as anti-graffiti, that if perhaps that something was written on there that we would like to remove, that the material is made of something that we can have removed. That said, so the rebranding made the decision for the signs. I do understand the concern in regards to the name of the settlement area. I understand where they're coming from. I get it. Having been involved in the process from start to finish, I can tell you when you looked at a drawing or a rendering of that sign and you've seen it on paper, and from, with the counselors that looked at it, even the EDPAC committee, the staff members that went, it's seen a lot of eyes. Not one person highlighted it. No one's seen it because it wasn't as prominent on paper. And I guess you would say you didn't see it. And I mean, we were trying to ensure that the dates of incorporation were there and that they were correct and that everyone was respected. But ultimately, council made the decision to rebrand. It's in the rebranding colors. The new logos are there. I will take a look at getting the east side Westwood entrance sign relocated. I'm not sure the timing involved in that. I was advised by the public works manager that the posts that are on the current funding sign at the intersection of center line and the third line aren't the correct. They have to be reinstalled. They won't hold the new sign. So they have to be reinstalled if we take a look at that. So if council wants it moved, I would ask for a motion as to where you would like it moved to, and any other direction that you would like to see brought forward. I didn't know where this conversation was going to go, so I got some costing. If council wanted to go down the road as to be replacing the signs coming into the settlement areas, I have approximate costing for that, if council wishes to know that. Outside of that, we have received an exceptional amount of positive comments and I'm proud of them. So I'll leave it at that.
Councillor Ward?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to have a chance to chat about this because I have had a number of residents reach out to me, and quite possibly because we had the Royal Jubilee in Westwood this past 2 weekends ago. So people did have a chance out driving, and perhaps the first time to really get a chance to see the signs. And I'll give you some positives and some feedback that I had from the residents, which I think we should maybe consider. So you're right. I think the signs are bright. They're really easy to read. I think that the one on the east end of Westwood, I think it is in an awkward position. I feel that the first plow, the first big snowstorm, it's going to take out that sign. So I think if it's a reasonable amount to like put that sign at another spot, I think in the long run, we're going to save money, because I have a feeling it's going to get hit by the plow anyways. My other thing is, I don't think that there's any, like somebody had suggested before, that it's that tug of war between the amalgamation, the township versus Norwood. That has never been part of any residents' conversation that I have heard. The feedback that I had was it's small town pride, and that they're proud to come from Norwood, even that residing in Asphodel Township, of course. But if you look on a map, I think if you're going to Havelock, you wouldn't say, I'm going to Havelock, Belmont, Methuen. You would say, I need to know how to get to Havelock, which is in the municipality of that. And I think that's how people are viewing the signs in the both settlement areas, that you're already in Asphodel Township. And I think that they really like the township signs in the outer parts of the township, where you're coming in on County Road 2 from Autonomy South Monaghan. That sign is bright, lovely. You're entering Asphodel-Norwood Township, the same coming in. But when you get into the settlement areas, I think they go, we're really proud of where we live in the town of Norwood, or we're really proud to live in the village of Westwood. And I think perhaps when we would have to replace a sign, that we would consider possibly just changing the font sizes on those signs when they have to be replaced. And if we had some kind of costing, as we know, the storm took down one of the signs coming into Norwood, the run of the brand new signs. If we had a costing approximate, that, maybe in the future, just in the settlement areas itself, that it just be reversed, that Norwood, part of the municipality of Asphodel-Norwood, or, a community in Asphodel-Norwood. And so I can see where the residents came from in their viewpoints. And yes, we've had the luxury of seeing the symbols and the logos when we turn on a computer. It's nice and bright for our correspondence, for our agendas. And yes, it's been a long process, started in the council previous to us, and then we adopted the what was going to be the final design. But I think I know that Francis had, Cardwell had, mentioned about the trillium. Well, that is a little long past. These signs are new and bright, but those are some considerations that I think we should address, because I can tell you, and it's not all negative, but I want to say there's probably been 15 people that have approached me about just the way that the signs read, just in the settlement areas, not around the township. And I want anyone to think of this as a criticism. I think it's an observation. And as you said, looking at a rendering on a piece of paper, there's no way that you'd be able to see that on a sign. And that's what happened when they went in the sign. I'm sure that you guys went, oh, but they're already printed. Like, I understand how things are done with the township. So I just wanted to put that out there as a different perspective, as much as I understand what Councillor Walsh is also saying, but that's the feedback I've had from some residents, and I think they're valid arguments.
Okay, thank you. Candace, please.
Yes, I just wanted to state, I forgot to mention previously that all of the signs that were taken down, we still have them. So they're all out at the Public Works Building. How we've had the Culture and Heritage Committee has reached out in regards to getting some, as well as a couple of the user groups have reached out to get their what's kind of left are pretty well worn, but the bottom little symbol that was their symbol, which we have multiple of them. So if there's one that's in decent shape, to give it back to them. In order to divest ourselves of them, I would caution council to be selling them directly to 1 or 2 residents without putting out that that's happening as a whole. Because I know Mrs. Cardwell mentioned the possibility of being able to purchase one of the signs if council wishes to go down that road and meet her request. We do have to be compliant with our procurement policy, declare them surplus, and then put it out to tender, and then all residents have the ability to bid on receiving those signs. That would be my only comment in regards to that. And outside of that, township staff is willing to enact any direction by motion given by council, no problem.
Thank you, Candace. I do know, like, when you talked about previous council, when we were doing the branding, the whole idea about the AN township was to try not to segregate us. And I know, Councillor Ward, that you said that's not really the intent, but it could be taken that way, no matter how you look at it, because if you're not all in as Asphodel-Norwood, then I don't know where you're at, because I mean, when you're over in any other community, Duro Dummer or whatever, or Havelock, Belmont, Methuen, I mean, that's even a bigger word than what we've got going. I mean, I don't hear a lot of people out there saying, well, I'm from Cordova so much anymore. It's Havelock, Belmont, Methuen. It's just the way it is. But I'm, like I said, I know I've had lots of people come to me and say, you know, even, well, mostly village people, just like, it's great signs. They're well presented. It's whatever. Most of the reaction that I got was, well, what's the number going to be on it now for our population? Because we were at 1,300 for the last 15 or 18 years, I think. And people just know that wasn't making any sense anymore. So I go, well, just shop local and thanks for being here. So anyway, where do we go on with this then? Do we just take this right now as a motion then to take this as information for now and leave it with staff, or how do we do this? What do you want to do?
I'm not going to provide an opinion on that, Mayor. That'll be up to your councilors
Yeah.
to do that. But I will state that Councillor Ward, I'm just trying to make sure you guys have all the information I can present to you guys to make a decision and provide direction. So the signs coming in on each end of Highway 7 that were destroyed from the storm. So they lasted, what, 2 days or 3 days? So we have placed an order. I had received confirmation that those signs had been received, and they came in with the Mill Pond Trail signage, the partnership with the Lions Club, all the new signage with that, as well as the town hall signage here, because it was late coming in. That's what we were told by the manufacturers or via email. I touched base with the public works manager just prior to this meeting to confirm all of that information. And the 2 signs on each end of Highway 7 were not included in that order. So we have to, we don't know why the manufacturers thinks they were sent, because they weren't shipped. So we're not sure what the issue is there, but we've got to deal with that. So those 2 signs still need to be, I guess, paid for, or they're been ordered. I don't know whether there's an opportunity to do anything to change them or not, but I think for rough numbers, you can look at approximately $900 to $1,000 to replace the Norwood signs at each entrance. And that includes installation, the hardware, the new sign. The sign itself is $800 without anything. And then the Westwood signs are $600 without anything. So I expect like $700 to $750 by the time you get all the hardware, and we'd have to go out and pour new concrete, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where you're at for costing. And I'll leave it. I'm going to be quiet now, and you guys can just tell me what you want.
It's not unaffordable, that's for sure. Councillor Walsh, please.
Just a quick question for you, Mayor. Candace, any idea what shelf life is on these signs? if nobody
Well, I
runs
made
into
sure they
them?
were gonna last, and I think that's part of the problem. So the material that we chose is very sustainable. It's aluminum non-rusting. Obviously, we didn't want to paint the signs. They chip, they're ongoing, so they're very sustainable. I mean, even the wooden ones were there for 20 plus years. So I suspect you're gonna see 20 to 25 years with these signs. Unless you're replacing them for another reason other than deterioration. If you're just looking at condition to replace a sign, it would be, I would say 20, 25 years, the lifespan of anything really.
Okay. And just to build on that, one additional question, if we were to make any consideration of enhancing the font, could we, I know this seems crazy to do a brand new sign, but could you sticker or something over top of the current Westwood and Norwood and make that font bigger if that's a concern of residents and as a way to possibly?
We'd have, we don't know. I'd have to take a look. I'd have to reach out to the manufacturers and make sure the sticker meets the reflectivity legislation and those sorts of things. I would suspect we would have to cover up basically the whole sign, because in order to make that sign bigger, the logo, the Township of Asphodel-Norwood portion would have to get smaller. So you'd almost have to cover the Township of Asphodel-Norwood portion at the top, like the header per se, cover that, cover where it says Norwood or Westwood, then put the new one on top. Or one great big massive sticker that I don't know what you would get for a lifespan out of a sticker. And what they would look like, and what they would do to the integrity of sign, the aesthetics of the sign, the legislative requirements of the sign. I would have to definitely do some research on that. I have no idea.
5 years, 7 years.
Yeah, sticker's not gonna last as long, obviously, as if it didn't have a sticker, I would suspect.
Even on vehicles, they only last 7 years, 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I feel that, they had time before we had the signs made to make these recommendations. I don't, it's a lot of money to spend now to refit them.
Yeah, the opportunity for the community to comment, there was tons of consultation during the rebranding process. Like, we did not shy away from any public consultation during the rebranding. We had focus groups, it was lots that way. But after the rebranding was adopted and we put it on letterheads, on the vehicles, the rebranding of the sides of the snow plows, the pickup trucks, our township clothing, business cards, the entrance signs. Traditionally, we don't go out to the public and say, how would you like this to look? The consultation process was during the rebranding. We didn't go out and say, this is what the sign's going to look like. Do you like it or not? That consultation never happened, and it was never directed for it to happen because the rebranding was already approved and we were following the branding. And to be honest with you, based on the rendering, if it went out on social media, I don't even know if it would have come back and said, can you change the font? I don't know. I mean, hindsight's 2020 and we can go back, but we can't possibly do specific public consultation on every single item of the rebranding project. And I should have went out for the trucks and the logos and the website rebranding, like everything. And then we would be 10 years putting it in place.
Councilor Ward, you have your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, through you. And I think that we are perhaps overblowing some of this conversation, because I can assure you that as a counselor for this township of Asphodel-Norwood, I am very proud to be living in the township of Asphodel-Norwood. And I actually, through you, Mayor, I actually took exception for you saying that, because I think it's more of, I think if you say the Norwood Hornets, for example, you don't say the Asphodel-Norwood Hornets. And that's what I was thinking about as hometown pride. And I just thought, if in the future there's an opportunity to perhaps change the font, I understand it may be down the road, but if there is an opportunity to change that font at some point, that it may address some of these concerns, which I think are relevant. And that's just because of, and it's nothing to do with the town, like, I think we're all proud to live here. That's why we live here. It's more to do with the two settlement areas. And I think everyone's very pleased with the branding, or most people, I won't say everyone because I don't want to speak for everyone, are very pleased with the ones coming into the community, the ones that say you're entering Asphodel-Norwood Township. And so I just wanted to clarify that. And I don't know what direction you're going to take, but if you are, I'd really like to have a reply sent to both residents that have sent letters, for one thing, and that perhaps we direct staff to take care of that if possible. And that if we have any other further conversation, we can address it again.
Yeah, thanks for that, Councillor Ward. And yeah, sometimes the way I speak doesn't quite come across as what I'm thinking sometimes as clear as what I'd like to say. But
Yeah.
I'm sorry you took obsession to that, or exception to that, I should say. But my apologies there on how I spoke.
So if we want to move this forward, I'll put a
Yes.
motion on the floor. So I will put a motion on the floor that we accept the correspondence from both Francis Cardwell and Janet and Mary Hay. Appreciate their feedback that they have provided to us. And if we are in a position where we have to make replacement to those signs, that the suggestions that they have provided to us would be definitely taken under consideration.
Whoops. Yeah, just a second here. Candace?
Yeah.
I'll let you get a seconder and then I'll comment.
Councillor Archer?
So based on that wording, there's two signs that are being replaced.
Yeah.
Because
No,
of the
not very-
storm.
Correct.
So are we talking like as a whole? That's the problem.
Already ordered.
So
They're
so-
ordered. They're ordered. I don't know, like they're ordered.
How can you change them?
Well, I would have to put a stop work order on it, and I don't even know if I could. I don't know where they are in the production line.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know that information sitting here. My concern is that if it's worded that way, we have two signs that are currently not up. We have two that are ordered. So I just want to make sure that when you're making this motion that, you know, it's the full entrance sign replacement project kind of as a whole, or maybe we're doing both Westwoods or all four Norwoods or whatever.
Well, there
Councillor
seemingly has
Ward?
not, there seemingly has not been a concern in Norwood. So we're, in my mind, kind of addressing a concern that residents of the settlement area of Westwood have. So I would say if it's going forward, if the signs in Westwood need to be replaced, that consideration be given to enhancing the font on Westwood and 1861, but we're not changing the top. Welcome to Asphodel-Norwood will stay the font size it is. We'll just enhance the bottom to make Westwood jump out a little bit more.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Councillor Archer?
Are you okay with that, Wilbur?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that's makes perfect sense. That's where I was gonna go.
Councillor Ward, you had your hand up for the motion?
Yes, I think there was one thing that we were talking about in the discussion that is not in the motion about the possibility of moving the sign on the east portion of Westwood. And I don't know how you would put that in, or if that's a separate motion, or if that's staff, if that's just staff will deal with that, about moving the positioning of that sign on the eastern portion of Westwood.
I think staff should deal with that. They have to find the proper spot. We can't tell them exactly where to put it till they figure out where they can put it.
Yeah, and a timeline is not a good thing either for that, because who knows how we're gonna work out with where we're trying to get the other part of the township cleaned up and done and get on with our day jobs, basically, never mind add another thing to their layer of duties to do, so.
No, I agree. I just wanted to make sure that that was identified when we're making the motion.
Candace,
Is that going to be on your works list, or is that going to be added to the action list or something, or like?
Won't
is
be
that
added
just-
to the action list unless you want a staff report back on it.
No.
Which it'll just get chatted about tomorrow at management team, as far as direction given, and it'll get added on the to-do list. And I already discussed it, that it was coming. And again, Peter and I have been chatting about this for the last week because I wasn't really pleased with the position of the sign either. So it's going to be done. I don't know when, and I don't know the exact location, but one thing I do want council to weigh in on is the exact location. You won't be able to weigh in on because obviously there's locates and other things that'll play into this. But if it's okay to move it, because what I'm hearing is to the four corners versus inside the settlement area where it is now. Because in order to move it further back off the road, we got to put a culvert in there, change the drainage of those areas in front of those houses, fill it in and move it. So I just don't want to go down the road of staff moving it and then the residents not liking it and us having to circle back to this conversation. So I would like clear direction. Do you want the sign at the four corners, or do you want the ditch filled in and inside the settlement area? And at the four corners, is there a corner you would prefer it to be on? Because the current sign with the funding isn't going to work.
Councilor Ward?
I think that staff would be able to pick the safest position and for it, and because of locates and everything else that you would probably have to do. But I do believe that the township office and the two houses are also within the settlement area. So moving it to the four corners, I think you probably still be in that approximate settlement area coming in on the center line. But I think that would be left up to staff, but I think you were in agreement that that was an awkward spot for the sign on that side of the village. It looked awkward.
It is.
So,
It's ridiculous.
thank you for doing that. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. So I guess what I'm looking for is we're amiable to moving that sign to the four corners, regardless of what corner and where. Is
Right.
that what I'm hearing?
Yes,
Thank you.
It has to
we got
suit
your back.
what can be done, right? All right, there's a motion on the floor, duly seconded. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
We need more hands.
Yeah, thank you.
Or that's a failed motion.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, it's passed. It's carried. Thank you. That was good discussion. All right, next on the agenda then is the councillor liaison reports. Does anybody have anything that they'd like to give us out a little verbal? I know Councillor Ward, you did send something out to us, but if you want to speak, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'll try to be brief. Yes, I sent it out to everyone. I just didn't get it written up because I was at a meeting again last night. I just wanted to say a good news story for the township is that the All Things Royal, the Jubilee celebration at the Heritage Center was very well attended. And I thank all residents that participated, and in particular, the partnerships that we did with the Asphodel-Norwood Cultural and Heritage Committee, which are commendable. That was the Asphodel-Norwood Library, the IODE, Mapleview Retirement Home, Pleasant Meadows, the Asphodel-Norwood Fire Department, and of course, the township staff that really rallied. They power washed the building that hadn't been used in 2.5 years, painted the doors, and it made it look really great. And so I want to thank that everyone that helped with that. And we had a lot of people that donated things for the event to put on display. And I listed those, so that will be in the report next time. I think I sent it to Melanie as well, because she doesn't need to write all this down. And I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback that between Mapleview and Pleasant Meadows that participated earlier in the week, we had over 60 residents enjoy cake, tea, and activity packs. And that was a joint venture with the IODE and the Asphodel-Norwood Library and the Cultural and Heritage Committee. And that over the weekend, we in donations received $711.05. That was a big donation from the IODE that supplied the cake and refreshments. But I just wanted to thank everyone that came out, because that's pretty astounding. You can read how many people came, but I just gave a detailed list because we haven't done anything in 2.5 years. And on that note, we also have a historical gathering at the Norwood Town Hall tonight with our special guest speaker, Kathy Elmhurst-Storing, and it's at 7 p.m. As always, our events are free, and spread the word if you know of anyone that may want to attend. I also did the Asphodel-Norwood Library Board meeting last night. I'm the alternate, and I can say that the libraries are in good hands. I think our CAO or CEO of the library is doing an outstanding job with engaging the public and creating new programs. And that was, until you go to a meeting, you don't realize all the things that are done in a month in the library. And then I'm just attending the regular monthly meeting for ORCA this Thursday. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for covering for me last night, Councilor Ward. I appreciate that. As you know, as we get older ourselves, so does our aging seniors in our families. So yeah, thank you anyways. Anyone else have anything that they'd like to bring forward at this time? All right, seeing no hands then, thank you. Next on the agenda, the CAO Clerk Treasurer's list, please, Candace.
Thank you, Mayor. The Asphodel-Norwood Community Center expansion project final design is sitting at about 95% complete. So we'll be able to circulate the final design. It'll just be for information. We've taken all the public comments into consideration, and there's been some significant changes, not on the footprint, but in the interior side of it, with reductions on the size of the washrooms and change room area, with the fitness area getting larger. On Victoria Street behind the municipal office, we are waiting for curb and gutter that is ready to be installed. It was supposed to be at the beginning of this week, but all the rain we had, it was pushed back a couple of days. But hopefully within the next couple of weeks, you're going to see that Victoria Street completely sewn up permanently and for good. I told you about working on the trails already. The other bit of interaction we're going to have with the public is we're going to be releasing 3 renderings of a playground structure for Asphodel Park. As we know, the big playground structure there is original, and due to inspections and compliance, it needs to be replaced for health and safety purposes, and it was budgeted for. So we have 3 structures that fall within budget, and we're going to put them out to the public and let the public choose which one they would like to see there. They're all very favorable, and township staff would be more than happy to have installed any ones that the public chooses. So that'll be released in the next couple of days. Canada Day survey went out, more interaction with the community. 152 responses were received. Basically, we asked if they were planning on attending. So what township staff has found in the past is when Canada Day falls on a weekend, if it falls on a Tuesday or Wednesday or a Thursday, we tend to see more participation in the Canada Day events. But when you see it on a Friday or a Saturday, sometimes people venture out of town or cottages and things like that. So we wanted to put out a survey to see what our community would like to see. And we did ask them if they're planning on attending, how many people would be joining them. So 346 individuals stated that they would be responding, because obviously the 152 respondents have family that they're bringing with them. So based on the survey, 346 individuals plan on attending. We've got kind of the top 10 things that people would like to see, starting number 1, fireworks, bouncy castle, face painting, just your traditional things. So we have the results of the survey. We are actively trying to put together and finalize all of that to have a wonderful Canada Day celebration. It was loud and clear that they want food and live music. So we're trying to satisfy all those things and have some things for the kids, and obviously fireworks. Don't forget to wear your red and white if you're able to attend. Welcome night is at 6 p.m. on June 20th in the Millennium Room. The specific invitations did go out to all of the new residents that have joined our township. That said, we did put out a social media kind of blitz reminding those that haven't registered to please do so. We're going to do that again. I believe it's 13 registrants that have registered to come, but maybe when you RSVP, we tend to get more near the end. So I think we'll probably see a few more people joining us on that Monday evening. The library door replacement, so the door replacement of that facility was part of that project. The rendering of the black steel door with the side light with the book return slot was provided to the library, and it was presented to the library board, and we did receive their blessing to move forward with the order. Would council like to see the rendering of the door prior to it being ordered? It's a black steel door with a book slot beside.
Anyone? Councilor Ward?
Sorry, just a question. Would there be a cost? What would be the cost of that door? Like maybe that would make a determination if people want to see the door.
Well, the door is about $10,000. And that's what we budgeted. So it's right within budget. Like 10, 11,000 in that range by the time you take the HST rebate out. So it falls within budget. And I'll tell you why I'm asking. Traditionally, when something like this is included with budget, we don't bring it back for council, but we did go to the library board. We did have residents concerned in regards to changes that were made at the Norwood Library location previously. That is why we sent it to the library board to ensure that they're okay with it. So I don't want to move forward with the ordering if council would like an opportunity to give comments or feedback into the door. We went to the library board first, just so that their comments could be presented to council if they had any prior to any decision, but they're quite pleased and are very excited and looking forward to receiving the door. There isn't a whole lot to see. It's a black steel door with a window for safety purposes and a clear side light with a book slot return. Again, just asking if council would like to see it prior to moving forward.
You have a screenshot of it, Candace, just for curiosity's sake or not?
Yes, I have it. Yep. Do you want to see it?
As well. We're being recorded, so if anyone else can see it out there in the public, then not such a bad thing either.
And through you, Mayor, if I can't, honestly, if you've gone to the library board, they know our library customers better than I do. And if they're comfortable with the door that's been chosen, I'm 100% behind them.
Technology is a wonderful thing today, isn't it?
And there just isn't much to see. It's kind of I had to go find it. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I see some draft pictures of it, but no.
That's all you get. That's what it looks like because it's custom made.
Oh, perfect.
So
It's very nice.
So it's there isn't a lot to see. So this going to be black aluminum windows in it, and then obviously this is the front, and then the panic device is on the inside of the door for obviously safety reasons, and the book return, and it'll go inside a book return box that's on the inside of the facility. So black aluminum, obviously the installation, framing and all of that stuff will be included in the install, but around 11,000, I believe.
Thanks. I was just wondering, yeah, okay, that's good. Thanks. You can take that down if you don't mind. I just wondered when the new door goes to go in, we had an issue there when we went to do the Winter Wonderland down on the main street to get lights out there. I just wondered if somehow when the construction was happening in that wall and the old one was coming out, if somehow a wire couldn't be stretched up there for a plug, just for convenience sake, near the top of the door somehow in the frame or something, or up through a brick or something if it's open already a bit. If that was ever thought about, because we had to run a cord all the way around the back, I think, to get any kind of lights out there, and then the door couldn't open. So, Councillor Ward, you had your hand up.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to bring one comment from last night's library meeting about the door, was that they were very pleased that there was going to be glass, because right now that door that they have, the one side has the sideboard, but there's no way that you can see into the library. Now with that door that has the glass at the top, you'll actually be able to see, they'll be able to put an open sign in, you'll be able to see in. It's just a safer environment for them inside as well, because it'll be lit properly. But I like your idea of having more outside light or a plug there as well. But I just wanted to say that that was one thing that was mentioned in the meeting last night.
It'll definitely be brighter inside with the window, for sure, too, so. Good
Okay.
job. Yep.
Okay,
thanks.
just a couple of other things. The launch, we're going to be launching the Shop Local campaign that we've done for the last couple of summers. So it's going to be launching very shortly, as well as the photography contest. We ran that for a whole year so that the residents had a chance to showcase the village over 4 seasons. We received 115 entries into the photography contest. Again, just to remind council, first prize is $250, second prize is $100, and there's 3 honorable mentions for third place at $50 apiece. Staff will be taking a look at shortlisting, and then we'll be putting out to the public. Obviously, we're not putting out 115 photos to choose from, so we'll be shortlisting and putting it out to the public to choose the final winners. And then obviously they'll be in the township's repertoire to be able to pull from for different advertisements, or sometimes we need photos for the website or strategic plan or social media, things like that. It was a fantastic initiative. We did not expect to get 115 entries, so that was amazing. So well done to the community on that. And that's it for me, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concerns? The only question I have, I guess, Candace, when you talked about our welcome night for the June 20th, just to reiterate, I guess, all new residents, you said, of our township in the last year or 2 years have received some form of a notice. Is that correct or not?
Yeah, so based on our records and the records that we have, this is basically through transfer of deeds and things like that. We have an ongoing list from the first welcome night, and so we sent invitations to all of those individuals. Through word of mouth, there has been a couple individuals that have moved in because they're renters and things like that. Like, so again, we don't have an ability to track that. That's why we put it out on social media and on the website to try to get those individuals that we wouldn't be notified of an ownership change in a property. So a few of those have reached out and asked to come, and of course they can come. So I'm not going to say we were able to do a clear sweep of everyone that has moved here, but I can tell you we got the vast majority through personal invite about a month ago. They're quite lovely.
Thank you.
They look like this. So yeah, personal little cards in the mail inviting them. So.
All right, very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So next on the list of our agenda would be anything under general business then. Councillor Ward, please.
Yes, thank you, through you, Mayor. I just wanted to inform council and residents that the Norwood Horticultural Committee, they're having their Norwood and area garden tour on June 25th. And I think they said that they have 9 area gardens that they are going to be open to the public. You have to have tickets, and tickets are available through Janice Matthews and Shane Hodge. So I thought that that might be something that people in our community would like to. It's an outside event, nice and safe, and see some beautiful gardens of our residents. And the second one, I want to ask our CAO about the paper shredding. And it's a great initiative. And I was just wondering, you said that in the Facebook post, it said that residents, dump their own paper, which I understand that. So it must be a huge bin or whatever they dump it in to shred. What things can't be included, just so residents know when they turn up what things shouldn't be on papers that they're shredding?
Yes, so the reason that the residents have to divest themselves of their own paperwork is because of confidentiality reasons. The company and county staff don't want to be touching probably confidential papers, but not including any large clips, binders, any documents that are maybe attached together using those plastic coil binders, those coils that go down the side, staples, paper clips, things like that, the machine would be able to handle. But I guess anything that's hard plastic or inside a hard cover, I would steer away from. Remove that hard cover and just leave the loose paper to toss in. It is a pretty massive shredder. I'm sure it would handle most things, but we don't want to jam it up either. So just stick to clean paper if at all possible, or staples and paper clips.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have seen that done. It's just a big bin, like a recycle bin, and they put it up to the side of the truck. You dump your papers in it, and then it pulls it up into the truck. And there's a camera with a picture, so you can watch your papers being shredded, so that it's not like it goes into a separate container and they're hidden for them to use later in life, but they actually show your papers being shredded. So I've seen in some trucks anyway. So it's a good thing that
A
we're
great
having.
initiative. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. Okay, anything else under general business? All right, the only thing I wanted to bring up was the craft hockey bill. I just wanted to remind the public out there that we still want to keep that word going for us. We want to win. And I think it's good that every chance that we get, we bring something up that we're in it to win it. And our arena could use some upgrades for sure. So let's still put it out there for craft hockeyville for Asphodel-Norwood. So, and don't forget to shop often and shop local. Simple as that. Thank you. All right, there's nothing under closed motion. There's nothing under notice of motion that I'm aware of. And then I'll have the clerk to read our bylaws, please.
Being a bylaw to authorize execution of an amending agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood and Cunningham, Swan, Cardy, Little, and Bonham LLP to provide independent integrity commissioner services to the Township of Asphodel-Norwood be read a first, second, and third time and numbered bylaw 2022-26.
Motioned by Councillor Walsh, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next.
Being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held on June 14th, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time and numbered bylaw 2022-27.
Motion by Councillor War, seconded by Councillor Archer. All in favor? And that's carried. You see your future meeting schedule ahead of you. So the recommendation then, I'm looking for a motion then to adjourn this meeting at 3:52 p.m. And their next meeting will be June 28th of 2022, or a special meeting may be called by the chair. So I'm looking for a motion then to adjourn. Councillor Archer, seconded by Councillor Walsh. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you very much, Council. That was a lot of coverage we did today. Great job. Well done by staff. And everybody keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Bye.